Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Writing Gal Pals podcast, where we talk all things writing and reading. Wow, did you practice that?
That was
I
so
didn't.
good.
It's just the third time, so I feel like I'm getting it better every time.
Wow, very good.
Thank you.
So amazing.
Okay, so backstory on this for the listeners. We had a book swap back in the holidays, and the book I put in was The Night Circus, and Casey got it and she read it, and we had a teeny tiny conversation about it in front of Michelle and Gigi, and then I said, you guys need to read this book again, because Gigi remembered reading it and didn't like it, and I said, Michelle, you have to read it since all three of us have read it. So that's where we got to this point.
Yeah.
And so now we're gonna have this little like book club on air chat about it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that being said, overall impressions.
Well, did we say we read The Night Circus?
Oh, did I not say that?
I don't
I'm
know,
sorry.
but I just want to make sure
It's
we read The Night Circus.
by Erin Morgenstern.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Casey, you go first.
Oh, me. Oh, wow. Okay. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I'm telling you because
I
this
know.
is like your book.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it overall. I have some thoughts about the ending, but overall, I loved the whole circus and the like. It was just like a magical environment, super fun. So I did really like it.
Okay. Gigi, did we change your mind?
No.
Okay.
So I read the book in high school, and I found it on Goodreads, and I gave it a 1 star. I did bump it up to 2 stars.
Okay, progress.
Yes.
I'll take it.
Simply because the writing itself, like, she's clearly talented. However, I felt like she had this, like, I am writing the most beautifully purple prose of my life. Everybody who reads this is going to think I am so talented. And I thought the storyline was meandering. I thought I didn't like any of the characters. And then I think most of all, I felt like it was the narrator was too distant from the characters. Like, she was like an eagle eye looking down at them, whereas I feel like when I read, I like being in the characters' heads. And so I felt like I was being told a story rather than being in the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michelle?
I loved it. I actually really enjoyed the ending because I saw your 4 would be 5 if it wasn't for the ending.
Yeah.
I loved the way that it ended. I understand what you mean. Like, there's a lot of flowery writing that I'm just like, no, I can't. Just tell me a story. Like, I don't like the flowery writing, but I didn't get that vibe with this.
Okay.
I also really liked the characters. I really, really enjoyed it. There's a couple things that were kind of silly and pointless to me. Like, you know,
Like what?
It really annoyed me that the 13 years and the aging thing, and I'm like, 13 years isn't that big of a difference. Like, it was weird that they noticed it, like, enough to move around and need to avoid people. And I'm like, I know people in high school that don't look that much older. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that kind of bothered me. And then, oh gosh, there was another point that I was like, what was his name? One of the teachers, one of the mentors, how mysterious he was. And I was like, I was waiting for a purpose for that.
Yes.
And I was like, there's no reason for him to be so mysterious. We know that the whole thing is mysterious. Because I kept waiting for that. And then at the end, I was like, well, that was dumb. He just is who he is. But those are the 2 things that kind of bothered me about it, which is, I know, silly things, but like, I was like, these were pointless. Otherwise, I really, really enjoyed it.
So one thing is, if you hear that little grinding sound, my fiance is grinding himself some beans to make coffee, and it's done. So thanks for bearing with us.
At home studio.
Let me tell you what I did like about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
The pretty insert pages.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're very pretty.
Yes.
Very pretty.
And I also liked the thickness of the pages.
I actually noticed how great
I
the
was
pages
like,
were.
so
This is good
these
paper.
are like expensive.
So basically, you loved the physical book.
Right.
Physical books, but not the story.
And not the
So with the
content.
words.
But I also have to share, like, I told Michelle this. I don't like circuses.
Okay.
Okay.
Like they give me the
lead with that.
heebie-jeebies.
Okay.
Oh.
So
like,
of course.
I just like always growing up I think there's this movie Big with
Tom Hanks.
yeah, and ever since I watched that as a child, I was like, I'm scared.
Yeah.
And so I just don't like circuses. So that
Okay.
like setup obviously turned me off.
I don't love circuses either, because I do think there's like something inherently
Devilish.
like something evil about it. It's the same thing with like county fairs.
Totally.
But anyway,
Sorry, I only associate like funnel cakes and like roller coasters with county fairs.
Where did you
do
guys
you
grow
think?
up?
I'm sorry. do you think it's safe
I
for
think-
you to
Oh,
ride
absolutely
on
not,
those
but I have
rides?
I fun. Literally-
That's a death trap.
No,
That's
they're
evil.
owned by Satan.
Yeah.
All of them.
They're not good.
They make good funnel cakes. That's all I'm saying.
I thought what I liked about it though was the magic part behind it. Like I love magic. So if
Yeah.
I'm enticed by a magic storyline or the way that it's told, I'm like, okay, I'm in for this. And I really liked the fact the one thing that I love most about this book is the fact that throughout the years Marco and Celia start designing things for each other. And that's what I like about it,
Yes.
because as I've mentioned so many times before, I read books for the romance, no
Wow.
matter even if it's like a minor plot, or in this case, I guess it's kind of a bigger plot, but there's so much that happens in there that it's not like specifically a love story. But I love that they without even realizing it, they're just like leaving little love notes for each other through magic. And I thought that was really like whimsical and fun and like just cool. And I love the first line where it's like, isn't it like the Night Circus arrives without warning?
Yeah.
And I like that the idea that people wake up and all of a sudden there's a circus in their town.
I wanted intense like magic battles, not this like we don't even know who the other person is and we never see them. There's no like
I think at the end though, and I think that's one of the reasons I like the wrap up. It was she was getting so exhausted and it was holding all that magic together, and so that sort of at least wrapped up that piece a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I loved the fact that it was two very different forms of magic. I loved the fact that they hit it differently or did things differently. I liked the competition. I just liked all that so much. I actually really, really wanted more of that. Like I said it on Instagram, because I was like, a lot of times I read these stories that like just skim the surface of things. I mean, this is such a cool idea. This is such a cool concept. You could have done more, and it like upsets me more than wants me. And this, I wanted more of it. Like I really did. I thought it was really neat. I wanted to see, like, at the end, and I guess I wasn't just focused on them enough, but the fact that they were, like, I forget names. The one was the other one's student originally. And I'm like, I want to hear that story. Like, I want to dig into that.
Oh, you mean the two, like, original...
the two teachers.
Magicians?
Magicians, yeah.
I forget their names, too.
Yeah,
They're so inconsequential.
I know.
They really are. I hate them. I was like, you guys are evil.
Yeah.
I could have used more Isabel.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you guys what you thought about the extra characters, like, coming in and how they fit into the world. Because I like how maybe someone is unassuming at first, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, they just played a really big part in this. I can't think of his name, but
Bailey. Bailey was my favorite
I loved
character.
Bailey.
He
I
was
loved
good.
him.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I loved Bailey.
Yeah.
When we first, she's like, nothing good to say. When we first met Isabel, I actually thought she was going to be a villain. Like, I did think that there was going to be something that was going on. And then I liked the role that she played. I did. Like, when that all came to fruition, I was like, okay, that's cool. I get that.
I think why I liked this book so much is it feels like, and bear with me on this, a heist movie. Because a lot of the heist movies out there, like, you meet the mastermind and then you meet all these groups of people that they bring together and they all play a specific role in this heist, and they but just put that into a magic
I can see
thing,
that.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm saying the masterminds here are not the two original magicians. I'm saying it's Marco and Celia, and how they kind of just like bring people in to kind of help at the end make this story and this circus kind of complete, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of feels very cinematic to me when I read it.
It was
I can
cinematic,
see,
yeah.
I could almost like see it as a movie.
Oh,
Yeah, for sure.
While I was reading
I
it.
was like, this would be better as a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
I
surprised
think
it
it would be
hasn't
good.
been. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So tell me about the ending and why it like struck you so hard.
I really hated that they got swept up in that fucking circus, guys.
I loved it.
They put their souls in it, and now they're just unseen magic.
I was confused about.
Yeah,
honestly.
I had to read it
yes.
twice. I had to read it
I
twice to
looked up
understand
stuff
it.
on Reddit. I was like, what's happening?
Wait, am I interpreting it right? Because I've
Yeah.
never like looked it up on Reddit. I just read it twice.
I don't know. I thought they were just like, oh, they still exist. They're just kind of in between, like in a parallel universe kind of thing.
That's how I took it.
But you can't see them. They never move on. There is no end for them. They just exist in this circus, and it's kind of fucking sad.
I love it.
Really? Okay, why do you love it?
Because it's them. They built this, and it's their space, and they did it for each other, and it's
they're
everything
together.
they've ever, and they're together, and it's everything they've ever expressed to each other, and just this is their world, but she no longer has to feel the weight of it, and Bailey gets to carry it on. I loved the way it ended.
I thought it was fitting for Bailey,
Yes.
definitely.
Oh,
to
yeah.
carry it on.
Oh, for sure.
And then, like, I am definitely a romantic, and so if ever a love story is just like, well, they get to end up together, then I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm happy.
I think it just almost felt like, and I know that they made it for themselves, right? It eventually became their thing and not what the two original magicians have forced them to do, right? But it felt like they were being quite literally trapped in something they never wanted.
Yeah.
And I think that is what disappoints me, because I think it might have been a better ending if they were able to step away from it, or honestly, if one of them had died. Like, if they had completed the actual thing that the original magician set out to do, is that one of them ends up actually winning. I think that might have been a little bit more realistic to me. I just hate that they got trapped in that circus. That was something they were forced to do.
But see, I think if one of them would have ended up dying, then that would have meant that their mentors, their teachers would have won, and they would have won. And this
Totally.
gives them the power.
Okay.
And I also don't necessarily see them hating the circus. They hated the competition.
Yes.
Which then ended for them.
Yeah.
And they got to be together. But I don't know if I mean, honestly, the one I probably feel the most bad for is Marco. Celia was in it and loved it. I don't know how much Marco...
He didn't seem to love
Seemed
it
to
as much.
love
He
it,
seemed to
yeah.
love her.
He just
didn't
loved
really
her.
care.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like at one point he's like, I'm not doing this for anyone but her now. And then he started like making little love notes, and she's like, oh, is this what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, go off, Marco.
Hey, Marco, you and your little face.
Okay, but speaking of Marco, who's his other girl? What's her
Isabel?
name?
Isabel.
Yeah, what an ass.
Okay, I have
I
a lot of
know.
problems with the way that he treated her.
Yeah. Marco sucks, kind of.
Yeah. With
Like,
her, for
he's
sure.
With her, yeah.
Just lead her on for years.
For years.
For literal years.
Yeah.
She built a life around him.
Yeah.
And then,
So that, and then he was just kind of like, yeah, I don't feel that. Like, I feel bad, but
I'll never love you the way I love Celia.
know.
Sorry, biatch.
yeah.
I also thought for a little bit Isabel and Celia were the same person.
Oh my God. I
When they
thought
first
so
introduced
too.
her, I
Okay.
thought so.
All
Yeah.
right, good.
I
Yeah.
thought so too. I was like, what the heck? She
Yeah.
can, like, okay, what's
She's-
going on now? And then it was like, oh no, this is a completely other person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought she was being like mastermind, like getting into
Yeah.
his life. Nope, just another girl.
Yep. Yeah.
I love, like, I love magic. I don't love circuses, but I love magic. So I'm like, I want to, like, I want more of this. Honestly, she puts a lot in that book. It maybe could have been a series if
Yeah.
she had been able to
Yeah.
flesh it out a little bit more, and not, maybe how many years spanned could have been broken up a little bit more, so we get maybe more of that character development and less of being told a story and more being in the story.
Yeah.
That's kind of my issue with it's third person
Yeah.
omniscient, isn't it? I don't really love that. Like, sometimes I want to stay with one character. Sometimes I don't need to know every single character's like point of view or whatever, but I understand, like, if she, you know, for the sake of that she did it to one book, maybe that made the most sense, but she could have like done like different points of views. Like a lot of fantasy books do that,
will
right?
Say, like, Cassandra Clare is one of my like all-time favorite authors. Like, I've read all of her books. I'm obsessed with her. And something I think she does really well is she is so good at doing third person, but understanding who each single character is. And she'll do like one character might just have a paragraph, another character might have 6 pages, and she just like splices them like that. But you always can tell whose head you're in. You can tell like how they perceive the world. And for me, like that, even though it's third person, I get so connected to the characters because she just gets them so well. Whereas this, I just felt like they all kind of blended together.
She did it for the sake of being able to tell the story in one book, I think. Right. And I think that's where it did ultimately like fail, with feeling like you're being told a story versus being in that story.
Yeah.
So maybe if she had been able to even make it 2 books, like now that I know duologies are a thing, which honestly I always thought books were just trilogies.
I know.
Anyways,
hey, my book is going to be a duology, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was going to, originally my thought was to do a trilogy, but then I was like, it would be so much more interesting if I combine the second and the third storylines, and it would be like more action packed.
I like duologies.
Yeah.
I've learned from the one that I've read.
Yeah. It's funny though, because I think I read a lot more from the one I've read. I think I read a lot more single books than you guys do.
Yeah. I love a series.
Yeah,
like 6 books. Ooh.
Okay, I love a series when it's already been written. I can binge it. I'm dying over Fourth Wing.
Gotta wait another 2 years, Queen.
I know. That's why I'm like. But yeah, so I think, if she had given herself more time because of what she's done, it could be. I compare it to Water for Elephants. Only because it's another circus book, but also I think it's a very similar third person point of view for that book, and it feels different, like reading Water for Elephant versus, because even if it's in third person, it might just focus on one character. I can't remember. But that author, I've read a couple of her other books that are kind of more like magical. At the Water's Edge, if you haven't read that, that's a very good one. It's about the Loch Ness Monster. But I think there was room for her writing to be a little bit clearer and a little bit more concise about her characters for people who aren't like me, who's reading it for the whimsy and everything like that, to maybe emotionally connect to it more.
You should really read Caraval.
I've heard of this before. It's by Stephanie Garber.
I think it's sort of like this, but way better.
Okay.
I love
It's a series, isn't it?
Yeah, you can, if you don't want to buy it, you can borrow mine. I read it in like 2 days, which is really quick for me.
Is it all out, or is she still writing it?
It's all out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
How many books is it?
3. Yeah.
Oh, that's not bad.
I think you would like it too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's one thing that if I had liked the book more, what I would love to see is like a timeline of how she lines up all of her different chapters, because you know how they like jump from like 18.
That was hard.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, why does the year matter in this context? And so I'd like to see that, like.
Yeah, I think like that on first read, sometimes I just don't pay attention to dates.
I just ignore it.
I always ignore it. But it's like when Bailey's introduced, this circus has been going on for a while. Yeah. And then I was like, wait, what? Like that's the point in the book that I started paying attention to the dates, because I was like, oh, we've gone ahead, but we're now going like almost backwards in time because Bailey catches up to them in the end. Because my understanding is that a lot of these characters are the same ages, are they not?
It seems like it.
Right. So like we're all of a sudden seeing Bailey when he's younger, and then for his first introduction to the Night Circus and why he's obsessed with the Night Circus and why it makes sense for him to be the one who takes care of it afterwards. And then we see him again years later. So I'm like, oh, we're jumping around a lot. And I realized then that I had not been paying attention to the timeline. And I think that would be cool too. Like, honestly, put a little timeline at the front, like people put maps, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that would have been a good
timeline, because you need that frame of reference. It definitely is confusing. The first read that I had of that book, I was confused.
Totally.
And I remember liking it, and I was like, this is going to be one that I'm going to have to come back to now that I know what happens. I can look out for things. So on second read, it was easier for me to follow along to those stuff. But it is a confusing book.
Thank you for the heads up. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. I was like, I've never seen Michelle mad at me.
I just never seen Michelle mad.
My life flashed before my eyes just then.
No, because there was a minute that I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, because there was a moment in the book where it's all so close that you're like, okay, this is now back, this is now forward, this is now back. So that would have been, it would have been nice to see a timeline.
Yeah, I think I like repressed how confusing it was the first read. Yeah.
The other thing I was curious about y'all's thoughts were like, what did you think of the little, let's call them intermissions, about like, you are standing at the edge of the circus.
we know the way you look.
You are going to eat a funnel cake.
I hated it.
With syrup and strawberries dripping down your fucking face.
I just kind of read it passively, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I knew at whatever point that you get to the second, third time that it happens, I just kind of read through
I was
it.
like, what is this adding to the story?
Yeah.
Other
Nothing.
than like you being like, I'm a good author. I think
is it supposed to be Widget telling it at the end?
Is it?
Is that what it is? I don't know.
Oh, maybe so.
I'm not sure if that's true.
Oh, I actually hadn't thought of that, but that would make sense. I don't know. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a narrative plot, like it's bringing you, the reader, in, and you are now at the circus, which, like, whatever, but I don't need that because I've been in the circus through the character's point of views.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to go and see it. Although, like, make it into a movie. I'd visually love to see this.
Yeah, I would like to.
I would visually love to see that. Like,
Yeah, because some of those rooms, I
Yes.
was like trying to imagine.
Yeah.
I was
Yes.
like,
I agree.
I'm hopping from the side wall to the middle wall.
yes.
Where are you? Like the cloud
Yeah.
room?
Yes. Oh my
Do you
God.
know who
I
would
love
play
the
the characters? I have no idea. I'm just asking.
Wow. Good question.
They'd have to be like, what, early 20s, right?
If this were
Like-
made, let's talk about if it were made this year. Like,
Yeah.
let's pretend it's
Okay,
being
you
made this
guys.
year.
Timothée Chalamet, just because.
I was like, I literally watched Little Women last night, and the first thing that came in my head was like, Timothée Chalamet would be the best.
He's also
Virgo.
perfect in everything he does.
Oh, I
so-
love him
Yeah.
so much. Okay, then let's make Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
I was about
Just
to
give-
say, they're so
exactly.
good together.
Yeah.
so done.
Done.
Easy.
Who's calling Hollywood?
Done. Yeah. Who's calling? Excuse me.
Should we start writing the screenplay now?
Yes.
With our no money to finance it?
And someone who hates it. Because, like, but in a good way, maybe. That would be like,
keep us
no.
grounded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep us grounded.
I think it's good. Okay, I have to admit though, Gigi. So I saw your comment or your like rating on Goodreads, and I was
Right.
like, okay, like no big deal. You didn't love it. I really didn't care
like
because I
twitching.
love it. It's not gonna like change my mind. What threw me off is you liked someone's post.
Yeah. That said it
and
all.
They went off.
I know, it was awesome.
And I was like, you.
I was really hoping you guys saw that. I did that so
'Cause
you
I didn't
guys
want to look
would
at
see
your.
it.
I actually didn't actually look at your stuff
Oh my
because I was like,
God.
I'm not gonna like taint myself.
I did
or
that.
I
whatever.
No,
saw
her-
that you liked someone's review, and I did not read it. 'cause
Please
I was like,
read
I know
it,
this is
Lily.
gonna
I'm
be
gonna
so
pull it
angry.
up. If
Read
you
the
give me a
highlights.
moment,
No, I
because
mean,
I have to
it
show
said
you-
everything I felt.
You guys need to see how long this was. Like the review was a
dissertation.
narration. Like, hold on, let me
was
see if
like-
I can find it.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I was actually thinking I should read that on the pod.
Okay,
so-
I had like so some of it I was like, fine, whatever, I get you. I could agree with this, but then. Okay, I found your profile. Then other people were like, the other points where I was like, you just didn't pay attention. She was like, she was getting mad. I don't actually
Oh, she
know.
was mad.
Yeah, she was pissed about the fact that the back of the book says that it's an epic tale, and she was like, what was epic about this? Like, oh. She's like, what was epic about this? Like, literally nothing was epic. Like, this is so stupid. It was the most boring thing ever. I was like, do you know that epics are just long stories? Because
Yeah.
that's exactly what that is. I was like, I'm sorry, but by definition, you're wrong right now,
Yeah.
babe. That's where I got mad. I was getting mad at
So
her, being
funny.
mad at the definition.
Well, it's funny when people do get mad at things. Like, oh, sorry.
Here, let me
like
pull-
she did
let me-
write a dissertation.
That's
Yeah.
her review.
But let me pull the highlights for you guys.
you know what your highlights are.
It's just
they're
funny
all-
to me when people get so mad about a book. Like, okay, it just wasn't for you. Like,
Yeah.
you don't like circus things. You don't like. I do like third person reads. Like, like you just don't like that. That's totally cool.
Yeah.
The anger about it cracks me up.
Oh, she's so mad. She's so pressed in this. And I was like, it's a book, babe. You could have
Yeah.
put it down at any point.
Anytime. You don't like books I haven't
read
finished.
it. Gigi had to because we have to have this conversation, but like that's Gigi's problem, not yours.
So she could be mad at us, not at the author.
Yeah. So this is, I think, the most true part of it.
Oh,
Lie number 4. Only one can be left standing. What actually happens? Aside from the obvious happily ever after, there's no reason that one of them has to die.
Yeah.
The previous battle before this one lasted 37 fucking years and only ended because one of the magicians committed suicide. There is absolutely no sense of urgency in this book. It moves at the languid pace my grandmother's overweight poodle used to meander at.
Oh my goodness.
Mad.
Yeah. No one in their right mind would jump up and yell, "I shall die for you, my dearest," especially if you know your friend will jump up and say the same thing louder. I don't know what happens if no one commits suicide. Does someone self-implode from the excessive magic? We never find out anything substantial. This book is left open-ended so that the publishers can milk this monstrosity all over again if it sells well.
Which, can I say, this book has been out for years. She has never come back to it. This is a standalone.
Yeah.
She has another book that was written.
The
and
Starless Sea.
Yeah, has absolutely nothing to do with this. Because I was for a second like, oh, is this like a sequel? No, she's never come back to that book. I think that's just, it's ended not open-ended, actually. I think it's very clear the circus will continue forever.
And I think
that's the ending.
I think it's okay that there isn't like this, we shall slit your throat if you don't hit this task and this task. Like, I kind of like the beauty of that. Like, I kind of like the...
No, I want slit
Hard
throats.
rules, yeah.
I want, like, competition to the death. Put us in a ring.
Listen to this. This is the part that, like, absolutely kills me. You have to read the part where she gets pissed about it
You
being
should
an
really read the
epic.
whole thing. It's awesome. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Wait, where is it? She writes so much. I just remember going like, oh, she gets mad about there's ice gardens and foggy mazes made of clouds, fires that never go out, and no one in the circus or relating to it minus kids. Like, if you didn't like it, put it down. That's all I have to say. Like,
Well, and it's one of those things that, like, this is a magical world, so if you don't get the detail of it, that's okay. You know, I'm getting mad and defending it, but like, I don't know, it's just funny to me. And I know you don't like it, but you also don't like it for the writing, and there's a lot of other stuff to it, like not understanding like the development behind it is okay because it's a magical world.
Yeah.
You
And
know
especially this one is supposed to be like kind of mysterious.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I do agree that if everything were explained, it would lose like the
Definitely.
magical part of it.
speaking of magic, can I just read this one part? Because this is also where she lost me. On that note, the magic was so obviously magic that I got annoyed. What the fuck?
No. I agree with that hardcore.
What?
No, I totally agree.
Magic.
No, because the audience isn't supposed to think they're magic.
That
But
was
it's like,
the
okay, she's changing dresses right in front of you. Like, of course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The beginning
I see.
was supposed to be like making people think that the magic was fake because of course it couldn't be real. And then
Yeah.
she's like, "Let me turn this paper into a bird."
And you're like,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do get that. Okay.
I
get
still
it.
don't agree. Like, what the fuck? It's magic.
Yeah. Well, I get what you're saying. I do.
Like, she was mad that it wasn't like sleight of hands, like real magicians in our lives.
That, like, the audience, to the audience, it would have been, like, you're watching Hannah Montana and you're like, that's obviously Miley Cyrus kind of thing.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
you know,
like the audience is in the book. You guys are saying.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can
Get
see
it.
that.
I don't know. I believe what they do in that one movie with Jesse Eisenberg is like really good.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good
I love that movie.
Wait,
that is a good movie.
Can we just acknowledge one thing that Hollywood failed is that the sequel was called
Yeah.
Now You See Me Too and not Now You Don't?
Yeah,
Like,
hello.
what the hell? Someone put me in a room with that person who decided to make that decision. I am furious. Now you see me. Now you see me too. No, it's now you see me. Now you don't.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. It's like saying presto, bye, instead of presto change up. Like, what? Anyways.
All right. So, final thoughts. Please, let's everybody share our parting thoughts.
I want to know on your second read, do you like it just as much, more or less?
I liked it more because I understood it more. Like,
Yeah.
genuinely, I remember reading it just being like, oh, I'm so confused. And the second time I read it, I was like, oh my God, like, this is so much clearer. And the first time I read it, I truly did not understand at the end where Marco and Celia went. I could not, my brain could not wrap around it. And then I read it for the second time and I was like, oh, I thought they like disappeared into the ether. And not that they lived in that like that plane between reality and whatever the fuck is on the other side of reality. You know what I mean? So it was easier to understand. So it was a more enjoyable read in that regard.
Yeah.
But there was no part of me that was like, I think when I read it a second time, the ending made more sense to me, even if I don't like it. I think just seeing how it's built up, I was like, okay. The first time I read it, I was like, oh, they're basically non-existent. And the second time I was like, I get why they did that, even if I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Cool. My parting thoughts. I will not be reading The Starless Sea.
Okay, honestly, I read the back of it and it didn't sound that good, so I won't either.
Casey?
Oh, that's it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I feel like it's been about a month since I read it, so like details were a little fuzzy. I didn't even remember Celia and Marco's names until you said. But as I read all of it, like maybe in less than 24 hours, because I was on like a 6-hour plane ride. And as I was reading it, I loved it. Like I loved all the little details. We didn't talk about the clock, but I'm such a nerd. That was like my favorite part.
I forgot about the clock.
I don't even remember.
He was like the clockmaker that then became obsessed with it. I loved all the details. Absolutely loved that. The ending, I knew in the beginning when they talked about her dad with his like explaining it, I was like, this is going to be important and I don't understand it. And then it was important. I was like, yep, I didn't understand that part.
So, you're like confirmed.
So the ending was frustrating, but the rest of the book really, really loved.
Michelle?
Misha.
I loved it. I think it's one of those, like, I can understand where if you're not in this sort of mood or if you don't like this sort of thing, like I get all that 100%. So it's not going to be one of those like, this is my top 3 literary classic books ever. You know what I mean? But I loved it. I just did. I thought it was super fun read. I thought it put me in the world and I loved that. So yeah, I loved it.
I'm really glad that you loved it because like, I feel like, I don't know how to say this. I think you and I have very different tastes in books. So, and also that you haven't read a lot of like, and also to be fair, I haven't read nearly as much as Casey and Gigi have about like kind of like magic or fantasy-esque books. So I'm glad that like the recommendation landed well with you because, you know, you're kind of like dipping your toe into that a little bit more after having read like Fourth Wing, and then we're gonna make you read what's it called?
Straight to garbage trash.
We're gonna make you read, what is it, the Curse of... Oh, that one too. I haven't read that one either, but I meant like near the end of the year.
And the Wings of Night.
Yeah.
So you guys are gonna have to remind me what we're reading. So.
Yeah.
We will.
Okay, so do we want to do like next weekend? Do we want to just talk about writing craft and
for sure.
think of maybe we could talk about publishing traditionally versus self-publishing. I think that'd be an interesting topic. And then in 2 weeks, we want to talk about From Blood and Ash?
Yeah,
give our listeners 2 weeks to read with us.
Yes, because it should take you about a day to read it with the high quality writing. I feel like I'm going in really hard.
It's a chunker though. It's like 500 pages.
It's big. I was gonna say that my physical copy is like this.
Yeah. I guess I read it on a Kindle, so I didn't realize it was that long.
But I haven't read it since like first when it came out, which was a long time ago.
It's being made into a TV show, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It was just announced, right?
Yeah.
So
we're going to go into it with critical eyes.
I feel like this one, it was just like, let's read it. Because I think you can, like, I think it's inarguable that it is a good story, even if, like, in terms of storytelling. Yeah. Even if you don't like the content of it, she writes very well. You guys have made it clear that is not the case for this book series. So I'm excited to, like, dissect the writing as well as maybe the plot.
What are your, before we go, what are you guys reading right now?
All the Colors of the Night.
Right.
Which I'm loving.
Yeah.
I'm really, really,
How
really
far
loving
are
it.
you?
I'm about midway.
Okay. I'm about
maybe a little
too.
over. Okay. We're probably around the same place. I was actually telling Gigi, you know that like when you first pick up a book and just kind of getting into the rhythm of the way they're writing takes you a second? This took me a second.
Yes.
I was like, am I just being dumb right now? Like I just couldn't, you know. But once I got into what he's doing, I love the characters. I really love the characters. So yeah, I really, really like it.
I'm reading First Time Caller because Lilly will not stop talking about it.
Oh, no.
And because of Valentine's Day. the banter between the two main characters is great. It's dual POV. The only thing I will say is I'm like in the mood for like a dark fantasy.
Oh, you're not in that.
And so I'm like, no, I know. So I'm actually determined to just finish it today so I can start like something dark, because I'm like, I just want like vengeance and trials and romance and tension. And right now it's like, caller number 5. What's your relationship problem?
So I just finished When the Moon Hatched, which is like big boy fantasy that I had lots of thoughts on. Gigi's read it. Lily's gonna read it soon.
Yep,
right?
3.5.
So I really wanted like a palate cleanser. So I'm reading, I think it's called The X Vows, and it's just like little cute
I've heard
romance.
good things about that.
It's
Jessica
really
Joyce,
good.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. It's very just like lighthearted, but there's plenty of yearning. They're like exes that their best friend is getting married, and they're the best man and best woman.
Love that.
So they're having to like, you know,
Be
pretend
forced together.
Yes. Yeah, I'm loving it. So
Lily.
I'm not currently reading anything, but I will be starting like something new tonight or tomorrow. So if you guys would like to help me pick, it's going to
give
be
us the mood.
Well, it'll either be, there are two very different moods. It's either going to be When the Moon Hatched.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of on like a Fourth Wing burnout, and I
Right.
want something similar with dragons, which it's dragons, right?
it is dragons.
Or it'll be Puck and Prejudice, which could not be more different.
Oh my
A hockey player time travels accidentally to Regency, England.
Oh my God.
Definitely my type of book.
So I really don't know which one to
Yeah.
start. They're obviously two very different sizes of how much to get through. So
I personally, I want your thoughts on When the Moon Hatched.
go with When the Moon Hatched.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do that. I'll palate cleanse with Puck and Prejudice, and then I'll dip my toe into From Blood and Ash.
Love it.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay. So I'll give myself a little.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go into
reprieve.
From Blood and Ash right after I finish this book, because I think it's like kind of the mood I'm in. So
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Then I'll start When the Moon Hatched
Yeah.
today or tomorrow.
Hatch it, baby.
Yeah.
It's not like Fourth Wing though. Just go into that prepared.
Yeah, it is. The vibe's pretty different.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no frame of reference. It's just they both said dragons.
Yeah.
So
There are dragons.
Okay. Cool.
Is that a trilogy?
It's a.
It's
it
the
will
first
be
one.
something.
Second comes
E.
out this year. I don't know if it's a duology or if it's a trilogy.
I don't
I
know
think it's a
either.
trilogy. I haven't seen the second one being promoted as like the end, so I would guess there's at least
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you for everybody who is listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Wait.